I stood on the concrete porch for a full minute, just breathing, balancing the bakery box on my flattened palms like it was a holy relic. It was heavy. A 10-inch round, 3 layers of lemon sponge with raspberry preserves, and a vanilla bean buttercream that cost more than my first car payment. The baker, a sweet girl with flour on her eyelashes, had charged me $215. I handed over the card without blinking. You don't budget for a 35th birthday. You just pay. I shifted the box to my left hand and rang the bell. I could hear the chime echo inside, a deep, resonant bong-bong that I had picked out at the hardware store 6 years ago. I paid for the chime. I paid for the door it was attached to. I paid for the entry mat my feet were currently scuffing. The door swung open. Ashley stood there. She didn't smile. She didn't open the screen door immediately. She just looked at me through the mesh, her face a mask of exhausted irritation, like I was a solicitor trying to sell her solar panels during dinner. "You're early," she said. "I wanted to drop this off before the party started," I said, pitching my voice up, trying to find that cheerful frequency that usually smoothed things over. "The baker said it needs to stay cool. It's the lemon one you like." She sighed, a long, performative exhale that ruffled her bangs, and pushed the screen door open. "Fine, come in, but be quiet. The twins are on iPads, and if you break their focus, you're dealing with it." I stepped into the foyer. The house smelled sharp, bleach and fake pine, the smell of panic cleaning. I walked past the living room, glancing at the gray sectional I bought them when the twins were born, and the 60-inch TV Mason had insisted was necessary for family movie nights that I was never invited to. "Happy birthday, Ash," I said to her back. She didn't turn. She was walking toward the kitchen, her heels clicking on the hardwood. "Put it on the island. Mason's out getting ice. He forgot ice." Again. I set the box down on the quartz countertop. The quartz I had written a check for because laminate lowered the resale value. My hands were trembling slightly. I clasped them together to hide it. "I thought maybe I could stay for a bit," I said, watching her tear open a bag of tortilla chips with violent force. "Help set up? I haven't seen the boys in 2 weeks." "Not a good time, Mom," she said, dumping the chips into a bowl. "Mason is stressed. I'm stressed. Having you hover around asking if we have enough napkins is just... it's a lot right now." "I don't hover," I said softly. She stopped. She put the bowl down and turned to face me, leaning her hips against the counter. She looked beautiful, in a sharp, terrifying way. Her eyes were cold, clear, and absolutely empty of affection. "You do hover," she said. "You hover, you judge, and you tally. I can see you doing it right now. You're looking at the counter thinking we didn't wipe it down well enough." "I wasn't." "You were. You always are." She crossed her arms. "Look, since you're here, and since you're going to ask me what I want eventually, let's just skip the passive-aggressive dance." "I just want you to be happy, Ashley," I said. "Tell me what you need. Is it the car? The tires? I can call the mechanic." She laughed, but it was a dry, cracking sound. "I don't want tires. I don't want a weekend getaway where I have to send you photos every hour to prove we're having fun." She took a step closer. The kitchen was dead silent. The hum of the refrigerator felt deafening. "I've been thinking about this all week," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper, intimate and cruel. "You want to know what would actually make me happy? What would make my life easier?" "Yes," I said. "Anything. I want you to die." The words hung in the air, suspended in the pine-scented dust motes. I blinked. "What?" "I want you to die," she repeated, her voice steady, conversational, like she was ordering a sandwich. "I'm tired, Mom. I'm tired of the guilt. I'm tired of the check-in texts at 7 a.m. I'm tired of knowing that everything we have comes with your little strings attached. If you were gone, the insurance money would hit. The house would be ours, free and clear, and I wouldn't have to listen to your voice anymore. That's my wish." I felt a physical thud in my chest, like a bird flying into a window. My blood went cold, then hot, then cold again. I looked at her. really looked at her. I looked for the joke. I looked for the "I'm just venting" retraction. It wasn't there. She was staring at me with a flat, bored expectation. You don't mean that," I whispered. "I mean it 100%, she said. "Mason thinks it too. He's just too much of a coward to say it. We're waiting for you to go. You're just lingering." The back door slid open. Mason walked in carrying 2 bags of ice, his face flushed red from the heat. He saw me and his smile faltered, turning into a grimace of polite tolerance. "Oh, hey Janet, you're here." He looked at Ashley, then back to me, sensing the static in the air. "Everything okay?" Ashley turned to him, her face instantly smoothing into a victim's pout. "Mom was just leaving. She dropped off the cake, but she can't stay." I looked at Mason. He looked at his shoes. He knew. He didn't know exactly what she had said, but he knew the dynamic. He knew I was being discarded, and he was relieved he didn't have to do it himself. "Right," Mason said, walking past me to the freezer. "Well, thanks for the cake, Janet. Drive safe." I looked at the white box on the counter, the gold ribbon I had curled with scissors this morning, the $2 $15 receipt in my purse. "Happy birthday, Ashley," I said. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, thin, metallic, distant. "Bye, Mom," she said, already turning back to the chips. I walked to the front door. My legs felt like they belonged to someone else. I opened the door, stepped onto the porch, and closed it behind me. I didn't slam it. I clicked it shut, listening for the latch to engage. I walked to my car, got in, and locked the doors. I put the key in the ignition, but I didn't turn it. I sat there staring at the garage door I paid to have repaired last winter, and listened to the silence. "Die," I said aloud, testing the weight of the word in the small space of the sedan. I put the car in reverse. I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I just backed out of the driveway, shifted into drive, and started the long, quiet ride home. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. My apartment was exactly as I left it, quiet, tidy, and smelling faintly of vanilla candle wax. It was a small 2-bedroom unit in a complex filled with retirees and young professionals who worked too much to make noise. It was nothing like the sprawling 4-bedroom colonial I had just left. I walked into the kitchen and filled the electric kettle. I waited for the water to boil, watching the bubbles form on the bottom element, small, then big, then violent. When the switch clicked off, I poured the water over a tea bag, Earl Grey, no sugar, and carried the mug to my dining table. This table was my command center. It was a sturdy oak circle I'd bought at an estate sale 20 years ago. It was where I paid my bills, wrote my Christmas cards, and balanced my checkbook. I sat down. I took a sip of the scalding tea. It burned my tongue, and the pain felt grounding. Real. I opened the drawer to my right and pulled out a fresh yellow legal pad and a Pilot G2 pen, black ink, 0.7 millimeter tip. I wrote the date at the top of the page. Then I wrote a single word in block letters, INVentory. I wasn't writing a diary entry. I wasn't writing a letter to God asking why my daughter hated me. I was a nurse for 40 years. When a patient crashes, you don't weep. You check the vitals. You check the fluids. You check the math. "Okay," I whispered to the empty room. "Let's see what the lingering costs." I started with the big things, the things that are etched in my memory like scars. Wedding, $52,000. I wrote it down. I remembered the florist, the band Mason wanted, the open bar that Mason's frat brothers had drained dry. I remembered signing the check while Ashley cried because the napkins were the wrong shade of blush. Down payment, current house, $150,000. That was my retirement nest egg. I remembered the day at the bank. "It's an investment in us, Mom," she had said. "We'll build a mother-in-law suite eventually." They never built it. Renovations, $35,000. The kitchen update, the quartz, the hardwood floors because the carpet was gross. I drew a line. My hand was steady. The pen scratched satisfyingly against the paper. Now for the emergencies. Mason's truck transmission, 4 $200. He can't work without a truck, Mom. The twins' private preschool, 2 years, $28,000. Public school isn't safe anymore. Ashley's dental work, $6,000. Veneers, not fillings. Mason's business venture, the crypto phase, $10,000. Gone in 3 weeks. Credit card bailout, 2/22, $18,500. We just got a little behind, never again. Credit card bailout 2024, $12,000. It was the inflation, Mom. I kept writing. I flipped the page. Groceries, Costco runs, estimated $200 month for 10 years, $24,000. Cell phone family plan, I pay the bill, $280 month for 10 years, $3,600. Car insurance, I bundled them to save money. I pay the premium, $15,000 over the years. I stopped. I stared at the paper. The ink looked blacker than usual. I pulled out my calculator, a heavy solar-powered Canon I'd had since nursing school. I started punching in the numbers. Click, click, click. The total appeared on the small gray screen. $468,300. I looked at the number. Nearly $500,000. That wasn't just money. That was my life. That was double shifts in the ER. That was missing holidays. That was wearing shoes until the soles wore through. That was my blood, my time, my sweat, converted into currency and poured into a hole that had just told me it wanted me dead. I didn't feel sad anymore. I felt a cold, clinical clarity. It was the feeling you get when you realize the leg is gangrenous and has to come off to save the patient. I was the patient. They were the gangrene. I wrote the total at the bottom of the pad and circled it 3 times, $460,300. Then, under it, I wrote, return on investment, $0. My phone buzzed on the table, a text from Ashley. Did you leave the receipt for the cake? The frosting looks weird. I stared at the message. I didn't reply. I turned the phone face down. I stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the streetlights were flickering on. My neighbor, Mr. Henderson, was on his balcony, yelling at a squirrel on his bird feeder. Usually, I'd roll my eyes. Tonight, I watched him with a strange appreciation. He was protecting his seeds. He had boundaries. I went back to the table. I flipped to a fresh page. I wrote, action plan, bank, lawyer, insurance. I put the cap on the pen. It made a sharp snap. The bank lobby was freezing. It always was. They keep it cold so you don't linger, so you don't get comfortable asking for loans you can't afford. I sat in the pleather chair across from Mr. Davis. He was a nice man, younger than my son-in-law, but with eyes that looked like they'd seen a lot of bad credit scores. He was typing on his keyboard, frowning slightly. "Okay, Ms. Harper," he said, looking over his spectacles. "So you want to close the joint savings account ending in 4490. Is that correct?" "Yes," I said. My purse was in my lap, my hands folded on top of it. "I want to close it and transfer the entire balance to my personal checking. The balance is..." He squinted at the screen. 21,250 years. "And this is a joint account with Ashley Miller?" "Yes, my daughter." "Okay, just so you know, as a joint holder, she has full access, but so do you. You have the right to close it. However," he paused, tapping a finger on the desk, "I see a recurring ACH withdrawal set up on this account. Freedom Mortgage Services. It pulls on the 15th. That's tomorrow." "I know," I said. "If we close this account today, that payment will reject. It will bounce." He looked at me with genuine concern. "Do you want to leave enough to cover the payment? It looks like it's about $20,800. I looked at Mr. Davis. I thought about the bakery box. I thought about the word die. "No," I said. "Transfer all of it." He blinked. "Okay, if the payment bounces, there might be fees. And if the mortgage is in your name..." "The mortgage is in their name," I said. "I am a co-signer on the loan, but they are responsible for the payments. This account was for emergencies. They have been using it for regular bills because they prefer to spend their salaries on other things. Today, I am closing the emergency exit. Mr. Davis typed slowly. I see. Okay. I just have to advise you that if you are a co-signer, a missed payment will eventually hit your credit report. Late fees, negative marks. I have excellent credit, Mr. Davis. 780. I see that. I can absorb a hit, I said. I can't absorb being used anymore. He stopped typing. He looked at me, really looked at me, not as a customer, but as a human being. He nodded, a barely perceptible dip of his chin. Understood, he said softly. I'll print the cashier's check. He worked in silence for a few minutes. The printer whirred. He slid a piece of paper across the desk. Sign here to acknowledge the account closure, and here to acknowledge that all scheduled transfers will be canceled immediately. I took his pen. It was a cheap bank pen, blue plastic. I signed my name, Janet Harper. The letters looked sharp. Done, he said. He handed me a receipt and a check for $21,450. It will take 24 hours for the system to fully update, but the money is yours now. The account is dead. Thank you, I said. I tucked the check into my wallet right behind my driver's license. Ms. Harper? He asked as I stood up. Yes? If she calls, what do you want us to tell her? Tell her the account was closed by the primary account holder, I said. Tell her to read the terms and conditions. I walked out of the bank. The sun was blindingly bright. I put on my sunglasses. My phone buzzed in my purse. I ignored it. It was starting. Sorry. I spent the afternoon reorganizing my filing cabinet. I pulled out every folder related to Ashley and Mason, medical records from when the twins were born, the deed copy I had buried somewhere, the loan documents. At 4:15 p.m., my phone, which I had set on the kitchen counter, lit up. It vibrated. Then it stopped. Then it vibrated again. Mason calling. I let it ring. Then a text. Janet? Mortgage payment just failed. Bank says account closed. Then another. Call me. ASAP. This is a mistake. Then the phone rang again. Ashley. I stared at the screen. My heart was hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs, the old conditioning kicking in. Fix it. Save them. Don't let them suffer. I picked up the phone. I didn't swipe to answer. I just held it. Bzzzt. Bzzzt. It stopped. Then a voicemail notification. I pressed play on speakerphone. Mom, what the hell? I'm at the grocery store and card declined because I tried to transfer money from the joint and it says invalid account. Mason says the mortgage bounced. Fix this. Now. We have the twins' field trip payments due tomorrow and I need that money. Call me back right now or I swear to God. Her voice climbed an octave at the end, turning into a shriek. I waited 5 minutes. Then I typed a text to Mason. The joint account was for medical emergencies. I have closed it. You will need to use your own funds for the mortgage. I hit send. The response was immediate. Mason. We don't have the funds right now. I told you, my bonus doesn't hit until next month. You can't just pull the rug out. This ruins our credit. Janet. You have 2 incomes. Budget accordingly. Ashley. You are a psycho. You did this on purpose. You waited until the 15th. You want us to be homeless? Is that it? Janet. You wished for me to be dead. Dead people don't pay mortgages. The 3 dots bubbled for a long time. Then they disappeared. Then they bubbled again. Ashley, I was venting. You are so dramatic. Put the money back. The twins are crying because I'm upset. This is on you. Mason, Janet, come on, be reasonable. We can talk about this later, but we need that transfer today. Just 3Ks, please. I walked over to the wall where I kept my calendar. I took a sticky note. I wrote in thick Sharpie, no negotiations with hostages. I stuck it to the wall at eye level. I typed one last message. Janet, I am not negotiating via text. Do not come to my apartment. I am taking a nap. I turned the phone to do not disturb mode. I wasn't taking a nap. I was making tea. But the silence that followed was the most luxurious thing I had tasted in years. The next morning, the silence was over. My inbox was full of notifications from the bank. Overdraft alert. Transfer failed. I deleted them. I sat at my oak table with a cup of coffee and dialed the number for Arthur Vance. He was an estate attorney I had used once to draft a simple will. He was expensive, humorless, and remarkably efficient. Vance Law, this is receptionist speaking. This is Janet Harper. I need to speak to Arthur. It's regarding a property dispute and a potential partition action. I knew the legal words because I had spent the night Googling. Arthur came on the line 2 minutes later. Janet, it's been a while. Everyone healthy? Physically, yes. Financially, things are terminal. I need you to look up a deed for me, Arthur. I gave him the address. I heard his keyboard clacking. Okay, pulling it up. 4200 Oakwood Drive. Here we are. Grant deed recorded 2014. Whose names are on it? I asked, holding my breath. 3 names, Arthur said. Ashley Miller, Mason Miller, and Janet Harper. Joint tenants with rights of survivorship. And the mortgage? Let me check the lien. Okay, you are listed as a co-borrower, not just a guarantor. You signed the note. Okay, I said, exhaling. So I own the house. You own 1/3 of the house legally, or 100% of the house depending on how you look at the joint definition. But effectively, yes, you are an owner. Why? I want out, I said. They are defaulting on payments. I want my name off the loan and I want my down payment back. Arthur hummed. Getting your name off the loan is hard. The bank won't release you unless they refinance. And with rates where they are today versus 2014, they won't want to do that. And if their credit is shaky, they can't. They can't, I confirmed. So what are my options? Partition action, Arthur said. You sue to force the sale of the property. The court orders the house sold, the loan paid off, and the remaining equity split among the owners. Since you contributed the down payment, we would argue for an unequal distribution of proceeds to reimburse you. Do it, I said. Janet, that's the nuclear option. It takes months, costs legal fees, and it destroys relationships. The relationship is already destroyed, I said. They told me they want me dead, Arthur. I believe them. Silence on the line, then the sound of Arthur taking off his glasses, a specific click I remembered. All right, we start with a letter, a formal demand letter. Refinance and buy out Ms. Harper's share within 60 days, or we file for partition. No emotion, just law. Make it boring, I said. I don't want any adjectives. I just want dates and numbers. I'll have a draft by noon. Courier delivery? Yes, require a signature. Done. I hung up. I felt lighter. I wasn't a mother begging for scraps of affection anymore. I was a plaintiff. At 11:00 a.m., my landline rang. Only 3 people called the landline: telemarketers, my doctor, and Eleanor. Eleanor was the unofficial town crier of our church. She knew who was pregnant before the stick turned blue. Janet? Her voice was a hushed whisper, which meant she was in public or bursting with news. Hi, Eleanor. I'm at the coffee hour after the ladies' Bible study. Janet, Mason is here. Is he? He's talking to Pastor Mike and Mrs. Higgins and everyone. She lowered her voice further. He's crying, Janet. He's saying you're having some kind of mental break, that you cut them off and they can't buy groceries for the twins. He's asking if the church has an emergency fund. My grip on the phone receiver tightened until my knuckles turned white. He is asking the church for money? He's making it sound like you've gone senile, vindictive. He said you stole their savings. I closed my eyes. I could see Mason's face, that earnest spaniel dog look he used to manipulate everyone. Poor me. My mean mother-in-law is confusing us. It's not true, Eleanor, I said calmly. I closed my own account. They have jobs. They have a $60,000 truck in the driveway. I know, honey. I know. But people are looking. Mrs. Higgins is organizing a casserole train. For them. A casserole train. For the people who told me to die. Let them eat casserole, I said. Janet? I'm not going to defend myself, Eleanor. Not there. Not now. The truth is, in the bank records. If anyone asks you, just say, Janet is following her lawyer's advice. Can you do that? Lawyer? Oh my. I could practically hear Eleanor's ears perk up. This was better than a casserole. This was a scandal. Okay, I'll say that, but are you okay? I'm fine. I'm just doing math. Math? Have a good day, Eleanor. I hung up. I walked to the filing cabinet. I pulled out the folder labeled Receipts. I spent the next hour scanning every single document into a PDF file, the $150,000 check, the contractor invoices, the loan agreements written on napkins that Mason had signed and never paid. I named the file The Truth PDF. I didn't send it to anyone. I just saved it to my desktop, right in the center, ammo. The courier notification popped up on my email at 2:30 p.m. Package delivered. Signed for by M. Miller. 10 minutes later, my cell phone rang. Mason. I let it go to voicemail. 5 minutes later, it rang again. Ashley. Voicemail. Then the landline rang. They were circling the wagons. I unplugged the landline from the wall. I sat at the table and waited. I knew Mason. He wouldn't text insults like Ashley. He would try to charm. Sure enough, an email pinged into my inbox. Subject, let's de-escalate. Hi, Janet. We got the letter from Mr. Vance. Wow, that's a heavy document. Look, I think things have gotten out of hand. Ashley is hormonal and stressed. You know how she gets. She didn't mean what she said. We appreciate everything you've done. But this letter? Asking for a buyout in 60 days? We can't do that. Rates are 7%. We'd lose the house. The twins would lose their school district. Can we just pause this? Give us 6 months. I'm working on a promotion. We can refinance then. We don't need lawyers eating up our money. Let's just have dinner, talk this out like family. Love, Mason. I read it twice. Hormonal. Family. Pause. I hit reply. Mason, the letter is not a suggestion. It is a legal notification. You have 2 choices listed in the document. 1. Buy out my equity share, $180,000 estimated by the date listed. 2. List the property for sale. There is no third option for dinner. Please direct further communication to Mr. Vance. Janet, I sent it. My hand hovered over the mouse. It felt ruthless. It felt like I was punching a puppy. But then I remembered the puppy wanted to inherit my life insurance sooner rather than later. I closed the laptop. The next stop was State Farm. My agent, Sarah, had pictures of her golden retrievers all over her desk. She smiled when I walked in. Janet! Time for the annual policy review? Not exactly, I said, sitting down. I need to change a beneficiary. Oh, okay. On the life policy? Yes, the $100,000 whole life policy. Right now, it's 100% to Ashley Miller. Who are we adding? We are removing Ashley Miller, I said. I want to designate the Hearts and Hands Foundation as the primary beneficiary, 100%. Sarah paused, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. The charity? Okay, and a contingent? No contingent, just the charity. Sarah looked at me. In her line of work, sudden beneficiary changes usually meant a fight or a terminal diagnosis. Everything okay, Janet? I'm just realigning my assets with my values, I said. It was a line I'd rehearsed in the mirror. Ashley is an adult. She has a house. She has a husband. This money, it should go to people who actually need help. People who will say thank you. That's very generous, Sarah said, though she looked unsure. I'll print the forms. I signed the papers. I watched her stamp them. Effective date, today. One more thing, I said. Does Ashley get notified of this? No, Sarah said. The policy owner is the only one who receives confirmation. She would only find out, well, at the time of a claim. Good. Let it be a surprise, I said. I walked out. I felt a strange sensation in my chest. For 10 years, I had walked around with a $100,000 price tag on my head, visible only to my daughter. I had just removed the tag. I was worth nothing to her dead now. I was finally safe. I ran into Eleanor again 2 days later. She was waiting for me by the mailboxes in my apartment complex. She was holding a Tupperware container and a glossy brochure. "I brought you lasagna," she said, "since you're not eating with the family." "Thanks, Eleanor." "And," she handed me the brochure, "I picked this up at the senior center. I know you said you're doing math, but you look like you need air." I looked at the cover. Silver Treks, Walking Tours of the Alps, a picture of a crystal blue lake and green mountains. "It's in 3 weeks," Eleanor said. "Group rates, single rooms available. No internet on the hiking days." "No internet?" I asked. "Spotty at best. It's high altitude." I stared at the mountain. 3 weeks. That would be exactly when the 30-day cure period for the mortgage default would expire. That would be when the bank started calling me as the co-signer. That would be when Ashley realized I wasn't bluffing. It would be a war zone here. "How much?" I asked. $3,200. Includes airfare." I did the math. I had the $21,000 from the closed joint account sitting in my checking. "I'll go," I said. "Really?" Eleanor looked shocked. "You never go anywhere. Who will watch the—" "Oh, right." "Right," I said. "I have no obligations." I went upstairs, opened my laptop, and booked the ticket. I selected single room. I selected travel insurance. I printed the itinerary and taped it to my refrigerator next to the no negotiations note. Departure, Oct 10. Return, Oct 24. I would be on a mountain when the hammer fell. 2 nights before my flight, I was packing my suitcase. I was folding my compression socks when someone started pounding on my front door. Boom, boom, boom. "Mom, open the door!" It was Ashley. She sounded feral. I froze. My apartment complex was quiet. This was a violation. "I know you're in there. Mason lost his job offer because of the credit check. Open up!" She was kicking the door now. I grabbed my phone to call 911, my hands shaking. I moved toward the peephole. I could see her distorted face through the fisheye lens. She was red, screaming, saliva flying. "You ruined us! You bitch!" Suddenly, the door across the hall swung open. Mr. Henderson stepped out. He was wearing a plaid bathrobe and holding a heavy wooden cane. He was 75, sour-faced, and hated everyone. He had filed 3 complaints against me for my trash can being left out too long. He looked at Ashley. He looked at my door. He slammed his cane onto the floor. Crack. Ashley jumped, spinning around. "Hey!" Henderson barked. His voice was a gravelly roar. "What do you think you're doing?" "This is none of your business," Ashley screamed. "That's my mother. She stole my money." "I don't care if she's the Queen of England," Henderson growled, stepping closer. He was a big man, broad-shouldered. "You are disturbing the peace. We have cameras in this hallway, young lady. You are being recorded." Ashley faltered. She looked up at the corner of the ceiling. There was a blinking red light. She won't answer her phone." "Because she doesn't want to talk to you," Henderson shouted. "That's what a locked door means. Now you have 10 seconds to get your ass down those stairs before I call the cops and have you trespassed." 1. He raised the cane. 2. Ashley looked at my door, then at Henderson. She made a noise of pure frustration, a guttural scream, and then turned and ran down the hallway. We heard the heavy fire door slam at the end of the corridor. Henderson stood there for a moment, breathing hard. I unlocked my door and opened it a crack. "Mr. Henderson?" I whispered. He turned to look at me. His face was still scowling. "I'm so sorry," I said. "I didn't mean to—" "Quiet, woman," he grunted. "You didn't do anything. She's a banshee." "Thank you, really." He adjusted his robe. "You leaving soon?" Saw the suitcase through the window. "Yes, Thursday. Europe." "Good," he said. "Go. I'll watch the door. Nobody kicks doors on my floor." He turned and shuffled back into his apartment. "Fix your trash cans when you get back," he muttered and slammed his door shut. I locked my door. I slid the deadbolt. I leaned my forehead against the cool wood and started to laugh. It was a shaky, jagged laugh. My daughter wanted me dead. My neighbor just wanted me to follow the HOA rules. I knew which one I preferred. I went back to the bedroom and finished packing. I was ready to fly. The airport terminal was a sensory assault. Announcements blared about unattended baggage. A child was screaming near the pretzel stand, and the CNN monitor above gate B12 was flashing red banners about the economy. But the loudest thing in the concourse was my purse. It was vibrating, a steady, rhythmic buzzing against my hip bone. I sat in a hard plastic chair, my boarding pass clutched in a sweaty hand. I didn't look at the phone. I knew what the vibrations meant. It was the 10th. The 30-day cure period for the mortgage default had technically opened, and the bank's automated system would have sent the letters. Mason and Ashley were seeing the reality of the boring letter in real time. Bzzzt, bzzzt, bzzzt. I reached into my bag. My hand hovered over the device. A part of me, the mother part, the nurse part, screamed to pick it up. Triage. Assess. Stabilize. "Group 4, now boarding," the agent announced. I pulled the phone out. The screen was a waterfall of notifications. Ashley, 8 missed calls. Mason, 3 missed calls. Text from Ashley. "Mom, pick up. There is a sheriff notice on the door. What did you do?" Text from Mason. "We can't refinance with a default pending. You trapped us. Call me." I stared at the words, sheriff notice. It wasn't a sheriff, not yet. It was likely a process server or a posted notice of default. But to them, it was the apocalypse. I pressed the side button. I held it. The screen said, "Slide to power off." I slid it. The screen went black. The buzzing stopped. My shoulders dropped 2 inches. I walked onto the plane, found seat 14A, and shoved my carry-on into the bin with more force than necessary. I sat down and buckled the belt tight across my lap. A constraint. Safety. A woman slid into 14B. She was about my age, wearing a loose linen tunic and expensive-looking spectacles hanging on a chain. She had a thick paperback book in her lap. "Running away?" she asked. I looked at her, startled. "Excuse me?" She gestured to my hands. I was gripping the armrests so hard my knuckles were white. "You look like you're waiting for the plane to explode, or hoping it does." I loosened my grip. "Not hoping, just leaving." "Best thing for it," she said. She held out a hand. "I'm Rose. I'm going to eat chocolate, read this trashy mystery novel, and not speak to a single person under the age of 40 for 10 days. "I'm Janet," I said. "I'm going to walk up a mountain and try to forget I have a phone." "Children?" Rose asked. It wasn't prying. It was the secret handshake of women our age. "1," I said, "and a son-in-law, and 2 grandkids." "And they need you," Rose guessed. "They need you for money, or babysitting, or emotional regulation, or to find the ketchup in the fridge they're standing in front of." I laughed. It was a dry, rasping sound. "All of the above, plus a mortgage." Rose nodded sagely. She opened a bag of M&Ms and offered me one. "I retired last year. Not from my job, I was a teacher, but from being the general manager of everyone else's life. My daughter called me last week because her basement flooded. She wanted me to drive over and assess. I told her I was busy." "Were you?" "I was watching a documentary on bees," Rose said, popping a red candy into her mouth. "Very busy. She figured out how to call a plumber. It was a miracle." The plane lurched backward from the gate. The engines whined to life. "I didn't just tell them I was busy," I whispered, looking out the window as the tarmac began to slide by. "I told them I was done. I pulled the plug." Rose looked at me. She didn't offer toxic positivity. She didn't say, "Oh, they'll forgive you." "Good," she said. "The only way they learn to swim is if you stop being the boat." As the plane lifted off, pressing me back into the seat, I imagined the signal from my phone towers fading, the texts from Ashley bouncing off the hull and falling into the Atlantic Ocean. I closed my eyes and slept without dreaming. The air in Switzerland, or whatever neutral alpine country we were in, smelled different. It lacked the metallic tang of American exhaust and the Clorox scent of Ashley's anxiety-scrubbed kitchen. It smelled like cold stone and pine needles. The hotel was a converted sanatorium from the 1920s, all clean lines and big windows facing a lake that was an improbable shade of turquoise. My room was small, sparse, and perfect. A single bed with crisp white linens, a wooden chair, a balcony. I put my suitcase on the rack. I hadn't turned my phone on yet. I had been in the country for 4 hours. I opened my laptop and connected to the hotel Wi-Fi. I needed to check email. Email felt safer than text. Email had a subject line. There it was. From Bank of America Mortgage Services. Subject, notice of default, account, 8839. I opened it. It was a PDF attachment. Dear borrowers, this letter serves as formal notice that your mortgage loan is in default. I read it like a medical chart. Past due amount $2,240. Late fees $145. Legal fees pending. Then an email from Arthur Vance. Subject, update heat check. Janet, they received the courier letter. I have received 3 voicemails from Mason. He is vacillating between begging and threatening to sue you for financial abandonment, which isn't a real thing, by the way. I also received a call from a family friend named Pastor Mike. I told him I represent you in a real estate matter and cannot discuss spiritual ones. Stay on the mountain. The clock is ticking on the 60-day buyout. They haven't made a counteroffer? Arthur. I closed the laptop. I walked out onto the balcony. Below me, the lake was a sheet of glass. A ferry boat was cutting a slow white V across the surface. Process, not cliff, I said aloud. It was something Arthur had said. Foreclosure is a process, not a cliff. It takes months. They weren't going to be on the street tomorrow. They had time to sell. They had time to rent. They had time to get second jobs. They were choosing panic because panic had always worked on me. Panic was the coin they put in the Janet machine to get a bailout, but the machine was unplugged. I took a deep breath of the thin, cold air. It hurt my lungs in a good way. I wasn't fixing it. I wasn't calling Mason to say, okay, I'll pay this 1 month, but you promise to... I was letting the consequences land where they belonged. The hotel had a financial wellness add-on for the tour group. It sounded gimmicky, but Eleanor had insisted. He's not selling insurance, she had said. He's just Swiss. He likes order. Mr. Miller was exactly as advertised. He wore a suit that fit too perfectly and rimless glasses. We sat in the hotel library, a quiet room with leather chairs and a fire that wasn't burning. Ms. Harper, he said, looking at the spreadsheet I had printed out, you have interesting inflows and outflows. I have a lot of outflows, I said. He tapped the paper with a silver pen. You have a pension. You have Social Security. You have this, he pointed to the lump sum from the closed joint account, $21,000, and you have the potential equity from the partition sale. If it sells, I said, my lawyer estimates my share of the down payment recovery plus equity will be around $180,000, maybe more if the market holds. And you have a studio apartment? Yes, on the other side of town. I rent it out, but the tenant is leaving next month. Sell it, Mr. Miller said. I blinked. It brings in $900 a month. It brings in stress, he corrected. Taxes, repairs, and it is a physical asset that your family knows about. Liquidity is privacy. Convert it to a portfolio. He drew a square on a notepad. If you take the $180,000 from the house, plus the net from the studio, let's say $95,000, plus your cash, you have nearly $300,000 to invest. With your pension covering your daily life, this money can grow. He looked at me. You could have a net worth of $500,000 in 5 years. You could travel. You could donate. You could sleep. $500,000, I repeated. It sounded like a number for other people, for doctors, for the administrators I used to report to. But Mr. Miller said, drawing a thick line through the square. "This only works if you stop the leaks. You have been a sieve, Ms. Harper. You cannot fill a bucket if you are drilling holes in the bottom." "The holes are closed," I said. "I welded them shut." "Good." He tore the page off and handed it to me. "Then you are not a retiree. You are a gardener. You plant the seeds, you water them, and you wait. You do not dig them up every day to see if they are growing, and you do not let the neighbor's dog dig them up either." I took the paper. Gardener. "Boredom is the goal," he added. "If your money is exciting, you are doing it wrong." On day 4 of the trip, we hiked to a glacier. It was white and blue and ancient. I felt small standing next to it. Being small was a relief. When we got back to the bus, I made a mistake. I turned my phone on, just to check the weather for tomorrow. The device nearly vibrated out of my hand. "Ashley, the sheriff came. They posted a notice. The neighbors saw it." "Ashley, you are evil." "Ashley, I hope you're enjoying your vacation while we pack boxes." "Mason, Janet, legal question. If we sell, do we split it? 33, 33, 33, because we put in sweat equity." We painted the nursery. "Ashley, don't talk to her, Mason. She's dead to me." Eleanor, "Honey, don't answer. But just so you know, Ashley posted a GoFundMe. It says Family Crisis Medical Emergency. It doesn't mention the foreclosure." I sat on the bus, surrounded by happy retirees comparing photos of goats. My chest tightened. The old guilt hook tugged at my throat. They are packing boxes. The twins are watching. I started to type a reply. "I'm sorry it came to this, but..." No, I deleted it. I opened my notes app. I copied the text Arthur had told me to use. "Janet, please direct all communication regarding the property to Arthur Vance. I am not discussing this." I sent it to both of them. "Ashley." Immediate reply. "Coward." I stared at the word. Coward. Was I? A coward would have paid the mortgage to avoid the conflict. A coward would have let them bleed her dry until she was eating cat food in a studio apartment. "Everything okay?" Rose asked from the seat beside me. I showed her the screen. Rose adjusted her glasses. "She calls you a coward because you're finally fighting back. Bullies always hate it when the victim learns karate." I turned the phone off. "I think I'm done with technology for the week." "Good," Rose said. "Look at that cow out the window. That cow has no mortgage." The 60-day deadline in the boring letter expired while I was somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean, flying home. They had not bought me out. They had not listed the house. They had done the classic Mason and Ashley move. They ignored the problem, hoping it would go away or hoping I would crack. I landed at JFK. My phone connected. Email from Arthur. Deadline passed. No action from defendants. The bank has accelerated the foreclosure. The auction is set for November 15th. They have moved to the acceptance stage of grief, I think, or at least the blame stage. Mason called my office. He asked if they move out voluntarily before the auction. Can they keep the appliances? I told him yes. If they vacate by the 10th, we won't seek damages for the appliances. They are leaving, Janet. I stood in the baggage claim, watching the carousel spin. A black suitcase, a red duffel, a cardboard box taped with duct tape. My chest ached. It was a phantom limb pain, the instinct to rush in and say, "No, don't move, I'll fix it, I'll pay the arrears, just stay." I wanted to save them from the humiliation of a moving truck, but I remembered the bakery box. I remembered the ledger. I grabbed my suitcase. It was heavy. I pulled the handle up and walked toward the exit. I wasn't saving them. I was saving myself. And maybe, just maybe, by letting them fall, I was teaching them how to stand up. I didn't go to the auction. It happens on the courthouse steps, a messy affair with investors shouting numbers. I couldn't watch my life, and their home, be sold off like cattle. Instead, I sat in the park near my apartment. It was a Tuesday. It was cold. I was wearing a wool coat and eating a turkey sandwich I'd made at home. The phone rang at 12:15 p.m. Arthur. It's done, he said. Did it cover the debt? I asked, looking at a pigeon pecking at a crumb near my boot. Yes, the market is still hot. It sold for $580,000. After the mortgage payoff, the legal fees, the bank fees, and the taxes, there is a surplus. How much? About $210,000 remaining. We have filed the claim for your down payment reimbursement. The trustee agrees that your $150,000 comes off the top. The remaining $60,000 splits 3 ways. You get $20,000 of that. They get $40,000. I did the mental math. $170,000 coming back to me, plus the $21,000 I already took. So they get $40,000? I asked. Yes, a check will be issued to them. It's enough for a deposit on a rental and a fresh start. If they don't blow it on a new truck. They might, I said. But that's not my problem. No, it is not. Congratulations, Janet. You are liquid. I hung up. I took a bite of my sandwich. It tasted like turkey and mustard. It tasted like an ordinary Tuesday. The sky didn't crack open. The world didn't end. The house was gone. The money was safe. I watched a golden retriever chase a tennis ball. He missed it, tripped over his own paws, and rolled in the grass. He looked happy. 3 days later, I drove by. I know I shouldn't have. Arthur told me not to. Don't engage, he said, but I had to see. I parked my sedan across the street, 3 houses down. The moving truck was there. It wasn't a professional company. It was a U-Haul. Mason and 2 of his friends were wrestling the gray sectional, the one I paid for, up the ramp. The front door was open. I could see the foyer. The walls looked bare. The wreath was gone. Ashley was standing in the front yard. She was holding her phone to her ear, her other hand gesturing wildly. She looked thinner, tired. She wasn't wearing makeup, and her hair was pulled back in a messy knot. She turned and saw my car. I didn't look away. She lowered the phone. She stared at me across the asphalt. For a moment, I thought she would scream. I thought she would run over and kick my door like she did at the apartment. Instead, she walked over slowly. She stopped at the edge of my window. I didn't roll it down. She yelled through the glass, "Are you happy? You came to watch the show?" I cracked the window 2 inches. "I'm not happy, Ashley," I said. "I'm just accurate." "You have all your money now," she spat. "You have your precious ledger. I hope it keeps you warm." "It does," I said. "It keeps the heat on. It pays for groceries." "You won't see the twins," she said. Her voice cracked. It was a real crack this time, not a performance. "You don't get to be Nana after this." "That is your choice," I said. "If you use the children as weapons, that is a decision you are making, not me." She looked at the house. The hydrangeas I had planted along the walkway were brown and dead. No one had watered them since I stopped coming over. "You killed this family," she whispered. "No," I said, putting the car in gear. "I just stopped being the life support." I rolled the window up. I drove away. I watched her in the rearview mirror until she was just a small, angry dot, standing in a yard of dead flowers. The money hit my account on a Friday. Incoming wire. Title escrow trust. $184,200. I stared at the screen. I refreshed the page. It was still there. I opened my spreadsheet. The new one Mr. Miller had helped me outline. Cash on hand, $25,000. Emergency fund. Recovered equity, $185,200 studio sale. Closing next week. $95,000. Estimated pension, Social Security, covering all monthly expenses. Total investable assets, $300,000, plus my pension value. I was worth over $500,000. I sat at my oak table. I looked around my small apartment. It was clean. It was quiet. I stood up and started to clean. I wiped the counters. I dusted the blinds. I vacuumed the rug. It was a ritual. I was scrubbing away the last 10 years of anxiety. I wasn't a victim. I wasn't a mean mom. I was a solvent, independent woman. My phone rang. It was the realtor for the studio apartment. "Janet, great news. The buyer wants to close early. Cash offer. Can you sign Tuesday?" "Yes," I said. I can sign any time. My schedule is wide open. Great. You're cleaning up this month, aren't you? Yes, I said, looking at the wire transfer on my screen again. I am finally cleaning up. It took 6 weeks for the silence to break. I received a text from an unknown number. Ms. Harper, this is Pastor Lane. Ashley has asked if you would be willing to meet. She accepts your terms. Public place. Mediator present. No money talk. I looked at the rules taped to my wall. No negotiations with hostages. No money talk. Boredom is the goal. I texted back. Thursday at 2 p.m. The Starbucks on 5th, 1 hour. I arrived at 1:50 p.m. I bought a black coffee. I sat by the window. They walked in at 2 p.m. exactly. Ashley looked better than she had on moving day. She was wearing a coat I didn't recognize, probably from a thrift store, and she looked humble. Or she was acting humble. With Ashley, it was hard to tell. Pastor Lane was a soft-spoken man with a kind face. He sat between us. Thank you for coming, Janet, he said. Thank you for moderating, I said. Ashley looked at her cup. I miss you, she said. It was small. I miss you too, I said. And the boys. We're in a rental, she said. It's small. The boys share a room, but it's okay. Mason is driving for Uber on weekends. That sounds responsible, I said. I didn't offer to buy them bunk beds. I didn't offer to send a housewarming gift. I just acknowledged the fact. I want you to see the twins, she said. But I'm still angry, and I know you're angry. I'm not angry, I said. I'm clear. There is a difference. I pulled a small index card out of my purse. I placed it on the table. These are the conditions for our relationship moving forward, I said. Ashley looked at the card. Pastor Lane leaned in. Visits are scheduled. No pop-ins. Sunday afternoons at the park or library. No discussion of bills, debt, or financial emergencies. If money is mentioned, the visit ends immediately. Love is without condition. Help has conditions. Ashley read the last line. Her lip trembled. Love without condition, she whispered. Help with conditions. Yes, I said. I will love you forever, but I will never again pay for your life. She looked at Pastor Lane. He nodded. That sounds like a healthy boundary, Ashley. She took a breath. She picked up a pen from the table. She signed the bottom of the card. Ashley Miller. I signed next to her. Janet Harper. Okay, she said. Sunday, the library? Sunday, I said. I'll bring the snacks, but just snacks. Just snacks, she agreed. A ghost of a smile appeared. The boys miss your animal voices. I've been practicing the bear, I said. 3 months later, it's Sunday. The apartment is quiet. I'm sitting at the oak table, but the ledger is gone. In its place is a library book about the history of salt. It's fascinating. It's boring. I love it. I look at the wall. The map Mr. Miller drew for me is framed. The graph shows a slow, steady line going up. My phone buzzes. Ashley. Running 5 minutes late. Twins can't find shoes. See you at the slide. I smile. Running late is fine. Can't find shoes is fine. Those are normal problems. I don't have to fix them. I type back, okay, I'm reading. The relationship is different now. It's thinner. We don't talk every day. She doesn't tell me about every fight she has with Mason. I don't tell her about my investments. We talk about the weather, the kids, the books we're reading. Some people might think it's sad. They might think it's cold. But last week, Mason got a promotion. He didn't call me to brag. He didn't call me to ask for a loan against his future raise. I heard about it from the twins. Daddy got a gold star at work. They are figuring it out. They are struggling, yes. They drive a used car. They live in a small apartment. But they are doing it. And I am doing this. I walked over to the mirror in the hallway. I tied the blue silk scarf I bought in the Alps around my neck. It brings out my eyes. My eyes look clear. They don't look tired. I grab my keys. I grab the bag of apple slices. I am going to the park to be a grandmother, not a banker, not a savior, just a grandmother. I chose boredom over fire. And let me tell you, the boredom It's beautiful. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.